All right, we're live. Tapping Birdie, Genesis Invitational. We're back after a slight break. Joined with my actual good friend, like not like just Twitter friend. Like we're just like we're actually boys. The group chat's always popping off. We're tilting our golfers 4 days in a row, so it's nice to have you on for such a big event.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and that's definitely true. I think I first came on here for Hero, not last year, first Victor Hovland Hero, and we had never like chilled or
Yes.
nothing. And now we've been to a couple golf tournaments, kicking in the city from time to time, and yeah, I'm excited to be talking some Jenny today.
Yeah, we killed a golfer together.
Wait,
Like I'm not
last
really sure like why I got all of the blame for
well, I
killing
think
Zal.
I had seen Zal in the flesh for the first time at the U.S. Open. I went to the practice rounds. I saw him for a couple days. I bet him. Vibes were good. He almost won. Good time. And then we literally saw him crossing, I think, from the first hole to the second hole. We were like coming in,
Yeah.
and I was like, wait, that's Zal right there. And you were like hyped. You got pretty close to him. And then 2 holes later, he was leaving the course. So I
Okay.
think that's
So yeah,
probably
so the
where it
fact
came
that
from.
you saw him in the flesh
Yeah.
before that
And
didn't
and then
inflame.
he played
Okay.
well, almost won the US Open, and you broke his
Yes.
back. Like, those
Bad
are
beat.
they're relatively different
Yeah.
scenarios, but
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that was the
Yeah, unfortunately, he's done for. Like he's never gonna win again. Miscut at Torrey, like might be on the Corn Ferry very shortly. Like we're worried
yeah,
about Zal.
huge
Um,
week. Like, if he another missed cut and you start to,
yeah,
wonder what the future
yeah,
holds for
yeah.
this
No,
guy.
I'm a little bit worried about our guy collectively. I would consider Zal one of my guys, maybe a little
Oh,
bit. Like he's originally Jersey's guy, obviously because he bet him 300 to 1 at the Masters. So like he gets like kind of first dibs
yeah, that's
on Zal, but like certainly like I'm close by. Like
and once
we
Zal got to 20 under at Century, that was
yeah
like the end of being his guy
he
because
might be a
his
BFS guy now.
yeah, he might be. That's actually fair. That's a good point. Well, so maybe not him here this week, but by the time we get
Yeah,
to like Byron Nelson,
yeah,
absolute hammer spot
yeah,
for Zal for
yeah.
sure.
So we had waste management last week. I was on vacation, so it wasn't a normal viewing experience. I did get to see a decent amount of it. We did get to see B Todd on Monday, kind of just carried over from the week. Bad beat on that one.
It was
You know
extra
that
bad beat for me because I had texted the group chat on
yeah
like Tuesday my card, and Rose was on the card. He didn't make it on to the official
yeah
card, only for
yeah
B Todd to then finish second place.
yeah.
So not the best situation, but a fun watching the Todd father out there.
Jack is wondering how do you go on vacation and come back paler? I'm tan, like straight up. I'm tan. It's just like with the light, like it's just like very bright on me. Like I'll send you a picture later, like not like weird or anything.
Yeah,
I'm tan. Like got many compliments at work. Like was baking in the sun. It's just the lighting. Like I got my color in. But Waste last week. Honestly, I think you watch more golf than anyone I know. Like you don't miss a second normally. Like you would say that's a fair assessment. Like that's not crazy for me to say. Like you watch a lot of golf.
yeah. I mean, I would say combined with like watching the DP. That's the DP World Tour for any folks who don't know what it is, but. Yeah, I mean, I've got to be up there with the amount of golf I watch. And then, like, being on the podcast on Valentine's Day, it is amazing
Yeah.
that my girlfriend sticks around. So shout out
Yeah.
to her on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
But yeah, a reasonable amount of golf is watched. And I think you know that when something's going wrong for your golfer, double
Yeah.
bogeys on the way or something, you text me and say, like, what's
Yeah,
the situation? Like
what's going on?
how's it
Well,
looking?
I do appreciate you coming on Valentine's Day. I understand, a lot of obligations and stuff, and I'm sure it's weird to tell your girlfriend like I gotta hop on a pod with my boy BK, like TIB Jenny, elevated event, like Tigers playing, like I gotta come on. So I appreciate you and I appreciate your girlfriend understanding and letting you come on the pod tonight.
Yeah, well, part of it too. I mean, it was never even a like deal. She was just totally down
Yeah.
from the start. But you originally texted me about Century, and I was
Yeah.
Houston at her parents' house, and that's why I couldn't come on. So like, I was down there mingling with the parents when I was supposed to be on the pod.
Yeah.
So now I can come on the pod on Valentine's Day. I think it's, in the ballpark of a fair trade.
So waste management, like what were your overall impressions? Obviously, it was a very highly anticipated event. There were a lot of casuals watching. There were a lot of casuals like more interested. There were a lot of casuals there. We had every single top golfer other than Adam Scott and Zalatoris playing in the event. Like there was a lot of hype around it. The real true like first designated event. Like, do you think it was a successful tournament, or like do you think it kind of fell flat a little bit?
No, I think it was a success, but to your point, I think it would be one of the most popular tournaments, whether it was an elevated event or whether it wasn't. How different it was versus last year, I don't think it was that huge of a difference.
Yeah.
And then I think on Saturday when there was all those guys in the mix there for a while, it seemed like, oh shit, first designated event, final round is going to be a shootout between, 4 or 5 of the top guys. And it ended up being a 2-man race between Scotty and Nick Taylor, which, is interesting to us, but I don't think that gets the like casual fan going. But I think we'll see more as the season goes on. I mean, Genesis has always been a really good field, but then you talk about like API or something like that. One of these elevated events that didn't always have such deep fields. I think that's when we'll start to really get a sense, because I think these events were already pretty popular, and the level of increased popularity isn't too much. And I think that's what's interesting too about like Genesis versus Waste, is that I think Waste to like the casual fan is a way bigger event than Genesis. But I think people who are like really into golf and love Riv, and kind of the like classic vibe, I like this event actually better. But yeah, I think I would say broadly speaking.
Yeah, like in terms, like popular. Just like very like broad, like not like diving into the numbers. Like the field did not seem that much different, and like even kind of looking at the odds, like last week and this week, it's not like wow, like this is like unbelievable. Like more so last week because there were some good numbers on people. Like this week, like for the second designated event, like it's not like wow, like this is just an unbelievable betting opportunity. Like there were just crazy numbers on people. And I kind of felt like that way like the last years at these past 2 events. Like, so, and I think the other thing about it is that you can't control the golf. And unfortunately, the actual golf on Sunday with the way the leaderboard shook out just wasn't that interesting, because it was very much so a 2-horse race, like 4 holes in. Like, I don't know exactly where they kind of but one
of the things I was seeing like people say, and I think it's true to the extent that like live starting caused the designated events to happen. And so, sure, that's great that one of the positives of live starting was that we get this better PGA Tour events. But wouldn't it have been awesome if they had just figured this out before anybody left for live, so that we could have Cam Smith in the event, so we could have Dustin Johnson in the event, so we could have Brooks Koepka, like all of those guys add stuff to the event. I don't like, I'm not a live guy, but that's just a fact. Those guys bring more to the event. They add more depth in the middle of the field. Guys like Mito, Joaquin Niemann here this week, like those are good players who compete in majors. And if these were, 15, 20 times a year, we were getting every good player in the world playing together, man, that'd be awesome. And it's a shame that they, couldn't figure it out before, and who knows what happens in the future. But when people say like, oh, it's great that live happened so we could get this, it's like a little bit of foresight and we could have had this.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like, it's kind of at the point where it's like, yo, like these are the guys we're stuck with, like the betting board this week, like the guys under 30, it's like, that's going to be it. And it already doesn't feel like, oh my God, this is like the most amazing field in the entire world. Like it,
the depth, there's really like, you get to the 60-1 range and you're like, sure, a guy at 61 could win the tournament. I'm not going to say that's not possible, but the depth's just not there that it will be at a major, for example.
And I just felt like last week it was just unfortunate because like I like was having people over for the Super Bowl and like people came over early and I'm like, oh, we could watch Waste. And like by the time they came over, I'm like, it's like 16 was like fine. That was interesting. But like the last 2 holes, like it was basically over. And like the 4 or 5 holes before that, it was a 2-horse race between the number 1 player in the world and Nick Taylor. And it was like just very clearly like Scotty is going to win this. Like there was no real debate. And that's where golf tournament, like the PGA Tour can't control that. Unfortunately, there just wasn't an exciting finish. But last year, in my opinion, was a better waste management because it was an extremely crowded leaderboard and it came down to a playoff. And there all this stuff happened on like the 16th hole on Sunday. Like you just can't, like it just, you can't control that. But yeah, I'm not like, this is the most, like the designated events are like so unbelievable because again, like you brought up, like the live guys like do add a little bit of flair to these events. And now it's like, we're just kind of stuck with like 15 golfers, and other than like Rahm and Rory and like Spieth, like they're all just kind of like very minimal personalities. They like don't make you like feel a lot. So, but this is just kind of what we're in for like this year. Like there's nothing like we can do. Like, so we're just like, that's why it's okay with it.
You know, it's obviously big Tiger playing this week. That adds something new for this week. And obviously that draws in the casual fans. But for me, it just gets me so excited for the majors. Like I already love the majors more than like anything in the world. And now I really think the majors are going to be unbelievable for exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah. But it was a good event. And something just from a betting perspective that I thought was interesting was that like, we never really say this in golf, but like, I don't, again, it was just kind of funny to see like the books kind of knew like last week a little bit, like the only guys that were like really in contention to like actually win the golf tournament were all under 20-1. And a lot of people last week, given the prices on Colin and JT and Cantley and Finau, like just didn't like bet guys under 21 because you didn't have to. Whereas you really did if you obviously wanted to hit an outright. And that's obviously not going to happen every single week. It was just interesting to me how like the guys under 20-1 smashed, but no one really bet them because you didn't feel like you had to.
Yeah. I mean, I was on Finau and Cantlay were like my guys at the top of the board for those reasons. The prices were good on him. And I thought obviously Cantlay played terrible once it was, as soon as the TV came on and it was kind of windy and firm and hard, I was like, oh, we're fucked on Cantlay. Like this isn't Cantlay week. And he immediately played terrible. Finau played fine. Couldn't make any putts, but considering the like narrative going into the week was like, Finau, you know, isn't good at this course. He had one good finish, but he's missed a bunch of cuts. I thought he played respectably when clearly he doesn't like love this course. But my only guy who was really in the hunt was Jason Day, and he was 75-1 coming in. And the way he was playing, I thought that was kind of a no-brainer play, and he performed admirably. I thought like if I can make it to Sunday, a few holes into Sunday, feeling like I've got a shot, that's good enough. Especially when you're going up against Scheffler and Rahm with a 75-1 guy. Yeah. And he birdied the first 3 holes, but like Scotty birdied 2 of the first 3. I think he was dead from there. But shout out Jason Day, made it an interesting.
No, that was a great pick. Like any 75-1 bet, you think you have a shot like going into Sunday. Like that's
the problem was, and we were texting about this. I didn't know this, and obviously it probably wouldn't have changed my pick of Jason Day. But for somehow all the Barstool people were on Jason Day. So Portnoy tweeted like twice about Day. Both times, Day went on like a 25-hole par streak. I think he was 12 under in like the 36 holes that Dave wasn't tweeting about him. So we might.
That's a big issue. Like that. Like people tweeting mid. Like I understand people need to tweet, but people tweeting mid round. It's kind of been an epidemic recently, and nothing good really ever happens after you tweet about your guy. Like you should only tweet negatively about the golfers you bet on, i.e. King, like in the chat, shout out. Like there's just nothing good's gonna happen if you tweet about good things that happen. They're just never.
That's why Homa winning at Torrey, we're forever indebted to Max because he overcame
so much. I just like missed it. Like I just forgot about it. But like everyone like crowned him with like 8 holes to go, and I was like, this is not good. Like I turned off my phone with like 4 holes to go. Like he won, but like there were some people I would have been upset with.
No, like
people were like, it was over. I'm like, this is not over.
Yeah, I was genuinely like upset about all the tweets that were out there about Max during the round. And I genuinely believe they had mushed him. It was over. He was going to lose. But then when they interviewed Ryder's mom, and she basically declared he was winning, that reversed the mush, opened the door. And almost immediately from there, Ryder made double bogey. Max made that crazy birdie on the par 3, and we went forward. So shout out to CBS.
People say, it has no powers, like things have no, it does. In golf betting, like juju and people's vibes, it has an impact. It does, truly. And we kind of use that to our advantage with Max. Like you were sending the tweets, you were sending the text, like very specifically, if Max says like any heart at all, he birdies this hole. Every time you sent that, he did it, but you didn't like overstep it. Like you only used it when like we really needed it.
Yep. And I tried to use it. It worked like, texted like 3 times for Max. He like eagled the first time and then birdied like twice. Tried to use it last week for Finau to get him going. Did not go well. I think he bogeyed the very next hole. So again, Max took on a lot of potential bad juju, and he delivered, and you have to respect that.
Delivered. Also, like severely, like it doesn't matter. It was like, but like was like extremely tipped. Like every single person bet him, and like not every single week. It's like that. But let's talk about Genesis. Designated event in the Palisades, Tigers event, Riviera Country Club. We've kind of had some longer shot winners in the past. This hasn't been an event dominated by the top of the board. Obviously a very famous golf course, going to be host for the Olympics in 2028. I saw there were talks that it might host the US Open in 2031, which I think would be interesting. And it's a golf course we know a lot about. So what are your overall opinions, thoughts, things you're looking for about Riv this week?
Yeah, definitely excited for Riv. I've got what's over there, the Riv hat on. I went in because I lived in Seattle for a long time, and so obviously not that far down to LA. And when Tiger was first coming back, this was 2018, I think, and I was just looking. I didn't remember this. He didn't play at all, like in 2016 or 2017. Like the data golf, there's like no starts by Tiger in that stretch. So I was like, oh, got to go down and see Tiger. You don't know if I'll ever get to see him play like in the flesh again. And he missed the cut, I think, but he was paired again with JT and Rory. I think it was this exact same pairing.
2019.
Crowds were insane. I think I actually saw Tiger swing the club like one time. Like it's impossible to actually see him, especially at Riv, because like the fairways sit ever so slightly up in certain spots. So like the fans are kind of down below. Pretty tough to see. But yeah, great golf course. I wrote in my article how simple it is. There's no water really. There's no water at all. There's no out of bounds really. Like you'd have to hit a horrific shot on a couple of holes to hit out of bounds. Not a lot of danger. It's kind of right in front of you. The holes are shaped by the trees. Like, where you need to go, but it's about being strategic and keeping the balls on the right sides of the fairway, the right sides of the green. Because if you short side yourself into some of these greens, or you get a bunker short sided, or you even hit it to the wrong side of the fairway, so now you're coming in at an angle where the pin's tucked, and if you go long, like you're off the planet, you can get into some really bad situations really quickly with 1 or 2 misplaced shots. So it's really about being smart, placing your balls as you go around the course, keeping yourself out of those situations, because you short side yourself, you're going to hit it to 20 feet. That's like the best chip you can possibly hit. And then the greens are so challenging. The putts inside 5 feet are the most difficult on tour. So you chip out for par. Now you're 25 feet away. You're like, let me try to force one in here, save par. Oh, you ran it past 4.5 feet. Like that's not dead by any means. Double bogey, like shit. But there are plenty of birdie opportunities out there if you play the course the right way, put the ball in the right spot, get below the hole, those types of things. There's some short par 5s and opportunities. So it's just about not doing something stupid basically, and keeping yourself afloat so you can take advantage of some of those birdie opportunities. So
with this is definitely known as kind of a harder event on the PGA Tour, like other than Neiman, -12, -11, -14, -12, winning it the past couple of years. But Neiman and also, Colin and Cam, like really like kind of tore this place up last year. And Neiman obviously won at -19. Do you have any indication either way as to whether or not it will play like that this year? Is it just a complete wild guess? Like, is there any reason why Neiman was able to just play extremely well here last year and win at -19? Like, do you have any indication as to the winning score or anything like that?
So a couple things. One on just like genuinely why I think Cam and Neiman did what they did is that if you're driving the ball long and straight and you're putting the ball in the fairway and hitting
Yeah.
it far, like you're hitting wedges into a lot of these
Yep.
greens. And again, if you put the ball below the hole, you're going to have makeable putts. You get the putter going. And Neiman gained a ton of strokes around the greens, like a career best
Yeah.
performance around the
Yep.
greens. So if you're saving par every single time in these difficult, situations and getting wedges into a reasonable amount of holes, and you've got short par fives, so you can put up a good score. I think this year, I was wondering about this, just thinking about the course, was how the rough would be, because what we saw at Torrey was all that rain that had happened in California over the couple months leading into the tournament. It was the thickest rough they had at Torrey in a really long time. And Riv is known for having very short rough. Like it's 2 inches at the most, Kikuyu grass, like not necessarily a big deal, like one of the lowest missed fairway penalties on tour, which is why there's been so many successful long hitters here. Is there's not a lot of penalty for being wayward. Scotty was saying that the rough is deeper than it has been in previous years. He played and there's like a collegiate showcase on Monday and he played and he said the rough was a little deeper. It was one quote. He didn't say, the course is harder or easier, but I do think versus previous years, there may be a slightly higher premium on hitting fairways, but it's not going to be, some crazy difference, I don't think. But players who are playing from the fairway with some distance are going to have an even more distinct advantage than they normally would.
Yeah, I mean, again, I hope that it doesn't get to -19, like -16. Like I hope would be like the highest. Just kind of like with some of the guys I bet. Like I think again, always when it's a higher scoring event, like more difficult to score, like more guys are in it. Like with Max at Torrey, like a 66 really mattered that day. So I'm hoping it plays a little bit harder. Not to get into like a whole like golf thing, but like. I think on NLU, I was listening, and they were saying the reason why Torrey was a lot more enjoyable to like watch this year is because they did get some rain, so it was easier to hold the fairways. Like it wasn't just like running like crazy. So again, I think there's been some rain, so I'm hoping that it is easier to hold the fairway and obviously the green. So it'll be interesting to see.
Again, and I think the other thing about like it getting to -19 last year was one of the reasons it wasn't like that enjoyable to watch. Like I had Adam Scott, I think he finished 4th or something. Like he was always like on the fringes and he played fine. Neiman and Young just played so well. Yeah. They got out and ran. Both of them shot like ridiculous first or second rounds.
I think
and then it was just kind of them. Yeah. So like I think this course has so much potential, like bad things can happen to you on the back nine. Like it can go, it's a nice balance of like you can make birdies and things can go wrong. And so even if the scoring is lower again this year, I just hope there's more guys in the mix so it's more interesting. I don't think the scoring necessarily drives it Riv, whether it's a fun event to watch or not. Like I think it'll never be, a point and shoot birdie fest type of situation.
All right, let's get into the odds. Let's get into the guys we're betting. There's kind of a big three emerging here in the golf world. Rahm at 7.5 to 1, Rory at 10 to 1, Scotty at 10 to 1. I personally don't think any of these three are gonna win this week. I'm certainly not paying up to bet any of these guys. Like I just think Rahm's too short and he hasn't been unbelievable on Sundays and he's still extremely impressive, but I don't think he's quite had it on Sundays recently. Rory, for obvious reasons, like I'm just out on, and I'm not like paying up at 10 to 1 to bet a guy that doesn't have, good juju around him. Like I'm just like good. Like I'm also like not in the business of like throwing $400 on one golfer to win a golf tournament. Like I just can't do that. And Scotty, like he's never won a bunch of events in a row before, so like he's not going to do it again. So like I'm out on all three of these. Like I don't think any are winning. Like no, I'm not worried about these three.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm worried about them by any extent. It's not one of those weeks where you go in and you're like, well, we just got to hope that those guys mess it up type of thing. I think of those three, just in general, I'd give Scotty the best chance. When he makes putts, he wins. Like he, over the last year, when the putts go in, he either wins or finishes second or third. So I think he, even though like I get the stats, Rory's driving and Rahm's driving, stuff like that, like baseline skill level and talent, I think Scheffler just needs to putt and he can win. The other guys can make putts and not necessarily win. And he made putts last week. He made putts here last year, which is off a big like guiding sign here. Is, how have you putted here in the past? And I think he'd be the biggest threat. But if going back to like whether it plays a little easier or softer, if it is softer, if the fairways are holding, if the greens are holding, and Rory's just bombing drives down the middle in softer conditions, I think that's when Rory his plays his best. And so that's the one thing I'm hoping is that it's not too like overly soft, because I do think that plays into Rory's hands.
Yeah. So like a lot of, I just want to say this before we start. My betting card this week is not 7X. So it is like a little bit below what you potentially should structure your average card. A lot of people don't care, and that's fine. It's all good. No beef or anything. But, generally me and you and other people at a minimum 7X. I'm below it this week just because I wanted to bet two guys. But it's not an egregious card. It's like 6.7%. It's fine. It's okay.
And I think like in all seriousness, like what you're kind of trying to say is like, and again, no beef. People do whatever they want. Golf betting's for fun. Like people do whatever the fuck they want. Like doesn't matter to me. But to be like profitable or to hopefully be profitable in a year, like you got to be around 7, 8, 6X, like multiple on a weekly basis, or else you just have to win so much that I don't care how many guys you pick. It's just golf. It's just not going to work. And we try our best to stick to it, but there's weeks where like you kind of ebb and flow, and you're going to make up for it in some future weeks. So like, no problems at all.
Like a lot of people we bet to like win at like a decent amount of money, and like other people don't, and that's fine. Like, but you definitely care less if you're just like you're betting at like football or like something, or like you're like betting at like first touchdowns. It's like, but like when you're really trying to like do it right and like actually like try and have some money to spend like from it, like it just. But again, I
think it's too. It's like it's not necessarily the money to spend; it's also the money to lose. So it's like if you're just betting for fun and you want to promise that you have a guy in the mix, and it's not that much money if you lose, like who cares? That's fine. I think we're saying is that like over a season, we bet every week. Like if you're betting a reasonable amount of money and your multiples off, you could end up down a lot of money, which is like the bigger negative than the like that's what you're trying to avoid.
No, I'm good on that. Like I'm good on losing a bunch of money. I have no expenses, but like still like kind of good on that. But like a lot of people this week, someone I don't like personally, I wouldn't want to like go share a beer with him. I wouldn't like follow him if I went to a golf tournament. I kind of think he's a dick, but I'm starting my card with Justin Thomas this week. And I think there's a lot of signs that point to him. I just think he's personally the best value below 20-1 this week. He kind of got off to a pretty slow start to the season with the Century and Farmers, just didn't really have it off the tee, and just played really, really good golf last week, gained over 8 strokes ball striking. And, if not for a completely random 36 hole, like Monday finish, and not for a 200-1 long shot, like beating him, like Justin Thomas is a Genesis Invitational winner and is thought about in this event very differently. I think he was one of the favorites that week and lost to JB Holmes like way late in like it was very random. They played 2 rounds on one day. And he just played well here. And I really like what I saw last week. And like we've always talked about, like the past 2 years, JT's only won twice. I'm not sure he won the PGA Championship. It didn't really count, but he did. It's on Fantasy National, like he won it. But he only wins really, really big events. And this is a really, really big event. And when he was paired with Tiger at this event in 2019 with Rory, that was his best performance ever here. So I think he can do it with Tiger. That's not really a concern for me. The only thing I feel really dumb about is that unless he starts extremely hot, which is very uncharacteristic of him, he will be higher than 16-1 at one point this week. And he always backdoors like all his wins and like all his good finishes. So I feel a little bit dumb for like, betting like $200 on a guy at 17-1, where he's probably going to be higher, but I don't bet him a lot. Like I'm not going to bet him a lot again. So this is like my one shot. Like I'll bet JT this week.
So here's my question, and this I see the path for JT. Like I'm down on JT. I'm not betting him, but like obviously he's got a great chance here. You said you think he's the best value below 20-1, and I'm just curious. since the PGA, what he has done to prove to be a better golfer in this stretch of time and at this course than Tony Finau, who has twice been second there, lost in a playoff, which if, you could, a playoff win is like as close to winning as you can possibly get. So I think in the same sense, you can think about him a winner here. And I think we're talking about, and we were kind of texting about this, two players who didn't putt well the last couple of weeks and like are known as their issue right now is poor putting. I just think Finau has been putting way better than JT has for an extended period of time. Finau putted poorly over the weekend at Phoenix, but he putted well in the first 2 rounds at Phoenix, and he putted well for 2 of the rounds at Farmers. And before that, he was putting unbelievably. He's had a bunch of upside with the putter. JT's putting has been terrible for an extended period of time with very little upside. Like you look at his putting, it's kind of like flat, like it's up a little bit, down a little bit. So I think the best play, and I'm also on Xander, and we can talk about him as well. But I'm curious. That's where I would push back on like JT for sure. Being the
I agree. And also just the straight up win equity. I don't know because like recently, Tone has more win equity, but like long term, JT has way more. And I bet Tony this week. So like it's fine. Like it's a totally fine debate. Because I bet Tone. So I don't, have any regrets about it. Like I do think it's close. Between the two. And I do think that it's just like JT has like one really good ball striking round or one really good ball striking performance. And like, he's back already, but I'm fine with it. Like it was either him or like betting like Sam Burns and then like being like a little bit like, So,
and I think like I said, I went with Xander. He also played very well at Waste Management. Like he was up there. And I'm bringing this up because just in the context of like, we're talking about, you need to pick a guy or two at the top of the board, just because in our opinion, like further down the board, it's just not like it seems like choosing right amongst this group of players really is what's going to decide like hitting a winner. Now that could be entirely wrong, but that's just my our opinion coming into the week. And so like Alexander, because played great at Waste Management. He may have cheated, like straight up.
You were very upset with him, like very
upset. Cheating is the wrong word. Like that's an overly like he took advantage of the rules and he got one of the rules officials to agree with him. Like, okay, that's fair. Like you did it, but there's a reasonable amount of players who would not have asked for it in the first place. So I think that's what like upsets people because he was dead behind a tree. He had no shot. There could have been a wild bear standing next to him and it wouldn't have made the shot worse or better than it was. Like he was screwed. So he got the relief. Great. Made birdie. But I do think to some extent the golf gods like struck him back down after that because he was cruising along, got short-sighted in the bunker on 15, but a reasonable up and down that plenty of guys got relatively close, ended up making bogey, made bogey on 16 in front of the fans. Like, so I think some the golf gods got him back. So I'm willing to join back up with Xander this week. No beef.
So why are you on Xander this week?
And I just needed to clarify, morally,
yes,
I'm down. We're good with
because I said you have no morals.
Yeah, you texted me, said I have no morals, but and that when it comes to picking it outright, like that might be true. But you look at his ball striking at Waste Management, led the field in green regulation, led the field in fairway proximity, drove it great. Like ball striking wise, he was as good as anybody in the field. He comes to Riv, which is a place I think he's played 5 times and never been worse than 23rd. Like always plays well here. His like baseline here is just so solid with the way he hits the ball. It's a strategic course. We've seen how well he plays at Augusta and in the majors. Like he's a smart player. He talks about why he likes Riv is playing to the right sides of the fairways, right sides of the greens. And then you just what really like kind of put me over the edge on him beyond just the stats. Because I think statistically you look at all these guys at the top of the board and they're all relatively similar from a like tee to green statistical perspective. The crossover wins that he has with guys who have had success at Riv is really strong. So you look at Bubba, who won at Riv 3 times. He won at Travelers 3 times. Xander won at Travelers this last year. Kapalua is a place that Neiman has played really well, lost in a playoff there. DJ's played well there. Max just finished T3 there. Adam Scott's played well there. You think Xander, you think Kapalua, you can say the same with JT. Like these guys are very, very like close to choose between. There's a few additional courses where there's some crossover, like the course over in China. I think JT and Xander have both played well there, and that's a place that Bubba and DJ Have won at Eastlake, another course that there's like everything says that at some point Xander is winning at Riv. Like I have zero doubt that he will lift a title at Riv at some point in his career. I think you could say the same about JT, and I think you could say the same thing about Finau. The fact is, you can only pick 2 of the 3, and I think that's
you could really
at
only
most,
pick
at
2.
Most, yeah.
You can only really pick 2. You can only pick 2 of these,
and that's why it's so hard, and that's why like it's fun, and that's I went Xander Finau. I've seen a lot of people go, JT. It's just like
No,
you
really can't go wrong with any of those 3. I think the rest there are some question marks, but we got to talk about Tony. We're both on him. I was extreme. Like Finau never was winning last week. Like I'm not saying that. Like I'm really not, because where he finished and what the final score was, like even if he made a few putts here and there, like he was not winning. Like he was never winning that tournament. But his putting was absolutely abysmal last week, and he hit it unbelievable. Gained like over 7 ball striking, which is just kind of what Tony does, and lost putting at the Farmers as well, similar POA greens. And we were talking about this before this event. We're like, all his wins are on either Bent or Bermuda. He's never won on POA. Granted, he's not won a lot, but all his wins, all his really great putting performances have come on bent grass greens. And obviously he lost in the playoff here, and he's gained, over 3 putting at this event more than once in his career. But like my concern is always about the putting. Like I just don't know if he can do it on POA. But at the same time, is he really going to putt horribly 3 weeks in a row? So what put you over the edge on Tone?
Oh, and I just wanted to add, because that reminded me as you were describing, one of the things I really like about Xander is how consistently he's putted the POA at Riv. Like he's putted it well. Of these 3 guys, he's the most consistent. Like the other 2 have had spike weeks, but if you just want to feel confident that the guy's going to putt well, I like Xander here. So the thing about Tony is like, you're saying he putted terribly because you open the app and you see he's got like a 4-foot birdie putt and he misses. And I agree that is bad, and you've got to make those.
It wasn't fucking one time either, okay?
No, but like that's why his putting is so interesting compared to like a JT, where JT has just been kind of flat. Like it's usually bad, sometimes it's a little good, but like there's not a lot of like fluctuation in it. Tony, so you said that he putted terribly at Farmers, and he did putt terribly. In the first round, he lost 5 strokes putting. That is horrible. Like the downside of that is extreme. Like that is a guy who said like, fuck this, I don't care the rest of the day. Like I'm not making anything. That is a horrible putting round. I give you that. But he came back in round 3 and gained 3.1 and shot like an incredibly low score, like best of the day. Next round, he gained 1.4. First 2 rounds of waste management, he gained 0.8 and 1, and then he lost 1.3 and 2.2 over the weekend. And over the last like 50 rounds, or the last 50 rounds, he's gaining 0.7 strokes per, like on average per round. So he's shown the ability to make putts. Like there's volatility there, but when you watch him from 10 to 12 feet or like that range, he pours those in from like for par and for birdie. Like he is good from longer ranges. It's the short ones that he really struggles with. And at Riv, to gain, if you're going to gain strokes on the field, I really think it has to do with just not 3 putting and running the ball way past. Give yourself tap-in putts for par or bogey if you like put yourself out of position. What Finau is good at is leg putting from distance and putting it up to tap-in range and just knocking them in. Also, lots of people are going to miss short putts this week. These are tough greens to putt from in close. So I think when you end up looking at like how the strokes get gained putting for the week, he has the ability to gain a little bit this week. Nothing crazy, nothing spectacular. Gain a half stroke per round, call it good, because he's doing so much tee to green that that's all that he really needs to do. I think he's shown the ability over the last 6 months to make putts. He has some upside and downside. But he just needs 1 or 2 days of great upside to gain for the week because he just got hot for a round or 2. Like JT, for example, like hasn't shown the ability to get hot for any rounds as of late.
That's completely valid. I agree. I want Tone to win. Like I'm in. Like I was really upset with him last week. But it's okay. Like I was like, I have to bet Tony again because just the ball striking the past 2 weeks have been unbelievable. Like, and that's Tony.
And also when you watch it, like, so I bet Finau a reasonable amount. Like,
he's your guy.
And like the fact that we cashed it at Houston, like don't have much bad to say about Tone. Like, he dominated the field in Houston. It was not close after like midway through the second round. Finau was winning. He destroyed everybody. Like, he played great. And so I've been watching him, on the streams. I've just watched him play a lot outside of just the stats. I think the way he plays just sets up so well for Riv right now. He just plods his way along, doesn't do anything crazy, nothing bad, just kind of keeps moving along. Like, just the way he's been playing for so long now, from just like a general strokes gained total perspective, he's playing the best golf of his career. And he comes to a place where he's had success. He's finished second 2 times. Like, I get people who might want to jump off of Finau here because like he didn't win last week. But like we said, he missed the cut there many times. I genuinely don't think, just by watching him as well, playing, I don't think the vibe of Phoenix is great for Tone. I think Tone needs to be locked in, focused, like a Riv style event to like, and he had one good showing at Phoenix, but he's missed a lot of cuts, and it doesn't make sense for like how skilled of a player he is at that venue. So something else has to be like driving that. He's talked about this being one of his favorite courses. He knows that this is a place he should play well. I feel good about Tone, and I feel it's one of those things where I would have felt so much worse jumping off here at a place that makes a ton of sense just because I was pissed off that he missed a few cuts.
And that's
the kind of dumb shit that I do all the time and regret it so much. So I'd rather Tony misses the cut this week and plays terribly, but at least I didn't set myself up for some just stupid situation.
I talked about it with Jeff at the Farmers Pod. Like, a lot of golf betting is just like doing what you would regret less. Yeah. And like, I'm not going to hop off just like because I know how well he's hitting the ball right now. So I hope Tony wins. Like, I'm in. Like, I'm down.
Yeah, for example, if JT wins, because that's the one guy of these 3 that I didn't pick, I would feel worse about picking Xander in the fact that JT won than picking Finau. Like, I'm fine with Finau. Whatever he does, good, bad, or in between, totally fine.
Yeah, so then, mid-range, we're not betting any of these guys, but, Colin, runner-up here. Obviously had a bad week last week. I have a little bit of FOMO on him. I'm fine with that. Cantley, like, I just don't think he's gonna win. Like, I don't think with his form right now, it wasn't like one bad week. Like, he just hasn't really had it. And I know he had a really good run last year around this time, but when you look at it again, this just his total eye test doesn't mean anything. But his wins have come later in the season, the past 2 years. He's won in August, BMW 2 years in a row, and he won at Memorial. He didn't really win it. But he just wins later in the season. Strokes gain, summer for Cantley. I'm out on him. Hovland's been really good
on Cantley, because I wanted to bring it up from what we were just talking about. Like, I also bet Cantley last week. I'm not betting him again this week, even though the odds are better, and I feel zero regret. If he wins, cool. Like, that's fine. I had no problem like accepting that I messed up by picking him last week, and that I don't think like to what you're saying, he hasn't played well in a few tournaments now. Like, he's played fine in some of them, but he hasn't competed. And to just show up and beat the best players in the world who are playing great, that's tough to do, and that's why like the guys who are in good form in these tournaments win, because it's just tough to turn your game on. Boom, now you're in contention. So now you've got to deal with like the vibes of contention. They've been doing it, the last few weeks because they've been in the mix. It's just tough. You can do it. And Cantley's the caliber of player to do it. But I'm fine letting it slide.
I know you didn't bet any of these guys, but of these 4, like, who do you have the most FOMO on? Burns, Young, Sanjay, and Hovland. Like, let's do a rank.
Yeah.
Who will not win the most? Like, who are you most confident will not win out of Hovland, Sanjay, Young, and Burns?
Burns and Sanjay will not win.
Absolute 1,000%.
I mean, like, clip it, because one of them was for sure winning now. So
this is fun.
I would say those 2, the ones that like, and Sam Burns is my boy. Like, I've hit Sam multiple times, so this is
Sammy B. Here's your
I feel I like Sam, and I think he's building back up. So he's gonna win pretty soon. I just don't think his approach play is there yet to win this type of event. Sanjay, I don't think a strategic course where you've got to be smart all the way around is Sanjay's game. He can't
even talk to his fucking caddy.
Yeah, I mean, that's that is like they do. That's an honest thing. They struggle to communicate. And I think like when Sanjay can just rise and fire, like he's an unbelievable golfer and he can make a lot of birdies. He does have the Augusta crossover, so like he figures it out at Augusta, but he also makes a bunch of dumb decisions at Augusta that like he could perform even better there. So I'd be out on Sung Jae. He also doesn't have the distance that like most of the winners here have. Yeah. So it really, for me, and Hovland as well. Like Hovland, from a like statistical, like, oh, I could see how this could work out perspective, I have FOMO, but I don't have FOMO in the sense that like Hovland winning this event. I just don't. I'm fine if he wins at 28, 30 to 1, 33 to 1, whatever he is, like, cool, that's fair, respect. The one I have FOMO on is Young. Because I know that I knew that you were gonna, like, part of the reason I probably didn't even bet Young or consider it is because like I can hear your voice in my head saying he's gonna miss a bunch of putts. And I appreciate that because he is gonna miss a bunch of putts. Like I'm glad that I didn't bet him. And I think like your voice was in my head when I didn't. But just the way he drives it and how well he played here last year, and the fact that like from an iron play, he's doing all of the things well that he did well to play unbelievably well here last year. He had his best career putting performance here last year. Like he could just show up and like, again, another player who doesn't need to putt amazing, just like needs to not completely blow it on the greens. He's the one I had FOMO on, but again, 35 to 1, like he's never won. This is a huge event. I'm fine. Like, well, I mean, what's your ranking? That's
like Cam Young. What like I like genuinely Hovland, Sanjay, and Young all absolutely unequivocally 1000% are not winning this week. Like I have zero confidence in any of them to win. I would put them like Sanjay, I truly believe has the least shot, and then Hovland, and then Young, but they're all very much so like not winning this week. So I'm out on all of those three. I do have FOMO on Sam Burns. I'm going to use him in one and done. I'll probably bet a top 10 on him, but again, played.
But that's you have FOMO because you bet him last week, and you don't, right? That's like, isn't that probably what's
and like he absolutely like blitzed, like he blitzed the field for the first 2 days, and that was before he had 4 PGA Tour wins at that time, and just kind of blew it over the weekend. But obviously still played really well. But yeah, he played pretty well last week. Again, I don't want him to win Valspar again. Like that just wouldn't be fair. I don't know when his win is coming, but one of the first guys that you like we're talking about like Sunday night, like before even odds, you're like, I'm betting Spieth 100%. You got a 40 to 1. There's a 40 to 1 available currently, so it's not even like it's the value still there. Anyone can still bet it. Again, I know you're going to give a really good case, but on your website you said that every winner since 2005 was above average driving distance in the past 25 rounds. Does Jordan Spieth fit that?
Yeah. So the thing about Jordan, and in the context of I've been really right on my Sunday night text and really wrong the last couple of weeks. Before Max Week was a thing, I texted. I said Max Torrey.
Cam Champ at Mexico Open. Yeah. You invented
yeah. But then Matty Neesmith at Pebble did not go well. He played terrible. Bad call. So this could go either way. But he was pounding the ball at Waste Management. Like he was playing with Xander, and he was launching it by Xander.
Was. And Colt was talking about it on the broadcast. Jordan was piping the ball.
And when you look at his trend of distance over even the last 3 years, like he's been consistently driving it further and further and further. This is clearly something, that he is working on and striving for. And then he had a round where he hit all 18 greens at Waste Management and like just flushing the ball around at Waste. And that's part of it. Like, cool. It's really nice that he's striking the ball like that.
Yes.
But even without that, if Jordan was playing average or not good coming in here, you just look at this place, and this is a place that Spieth should play well at. The Augusta comp is well talked about, and it's legit. Like Bubba Watson doesn't win at a lot of golf courses. He dominated Genesis. He's been 1-2 Masters in the last decade. We know what Spieth does at the Masters. We know the creativity that he has. So this is just a place like you think Spieth, like he should play well. And I think he's played, I don't have his results pulled out. Here we go. So he's 4th place finish in 2015, 9th place finish in 2018, T15 in 2021, like has played solid enough, has gained around the greens and putting here. Like he's shown an ability to handle the grasses and the surfaces, which is cool. And now he comes in here off of an unbelievable ball striking week. And Jordan's the kind of guy where like he might find a feel and he's just rolling with it now. I thought of the guys on the board, 40-1 on Spieth is
Yeah.
far and away the best deal. When you look at the names around him, you look at the quality of player, you look at what he's done and just the fit and how he comes in here. It was one of the easiest bets I've placed in a long time. And I get Spieth wrong. Like he could easily Spieth compared to like talking about Finau and Xander, I expect them to perform reasonably well and to be in the mix. Spieth could shoot 80 the first round. Like
but
who knows?
It's okay.
Who knows? But like he has the potential, he can win. Like there's no question about it. He won last year at Heritage, which is another positional kind of shape the ball, move it around type of course.
And he did it without putting, which he can't do.
Yeah. So I'm down on Spieth. It never goes right for me with Spieth. I think the last time I bet him was Travelers. Like we were going.
Yeah, we're on him at the Travelers.
Yeah, and I was like, "Give me Spieth at Travelers. We're going. It's going to be awesome." And there's that photo of him in like the waist high grass
on like
when
3.
When he's like 5 over through his opening.
He's like his hands are on his hips. Yeah, he's just like looking out.
So that's the case. That's the case for Spieth, and I do think he's. And like I wrote in my article, he's hitting it further right now. And that's what you need at Riv. You combine his short game and like skills with now he's bombing it. Sign me up for some Spieth at 40-1.
Yeah. And again, I agree. It's a good number. And like, it's a wet, like you can bet it right now on Caesars. Like it's not like he was 40-1 for like 1 minute. Like I do think that is good value versus the guys. He's around like Fitz, Zal, Tom, like Decky. Like we don't need to talk about these guys. I don't really think they're that popular. I think we talked about Zal in the beginning. Like I just don't think he's ready to win. Like talking on the NLU pod about how he's like, oh, like I've made a career about missing a right with my driver, and like now I'm hitting it left. Like I'm good on like betting a golfer that like literally like is missing his drive. Like that is like something like amateurs are like, like I always slice the ball, but I'm just like hooking it today.
That's such a good
completely
point.
Different. But and like I don't say this on my pod, like because I like hate people that like just on their pod are just like, yeah, well, like he could win. Like I'm not gonna bet him, but like he could win. Like Zal might dominate this week just because like no one is giving him a shot this week. So I'm just putting that out there. I will say, I'm down to victory lap it.
I mean, I've already like said multiple players aren't winning this tournament. Like there's only like 3 players that I've spoken positively about, I think, on the pod. So hopefully they play well. But I wanted to bet Zalatoris. Like I want to bet him at 45-1. Like I really want to do it. I would be stunned if he was truly, truly in the mix this week. I really would. Like for what you're saying, because it's one thing to be missing the opposite direction of where you normally miss, because like that means you really don't know where the ball is going. He's, as you say, he made a career out of playing from the right rep. He knows he misses it over there, and he knows how to play the course. Like missing it throws off his entire game. Yeah. Now he hits it really far, and he putts well on fast greens. And as we know, as Zalatoris strokes game downhill putts. Like there's going to be a lot of downhill putts at Riv.
The best downhill putter on tour.
Yeah, easily the best downhill putter on tour. He'll be pouring those in. The problem is I think they're going to be for par because he's going to be scrambling from around the greens. But I'm down for Zal. If he's in the mix, I will not be upset. I just don't think.
He's our guy. Like I mean, it's just it's all good. Next guy I'm betting, like just truly, doesn't take a genius to bet Adam Scott at Riv. Like, I'm not going out on a limb here. I don't have like something I found like in the data that like no one's looking at, but this guy just fucks here. Like he just plays really, really well at this event. And I think even like with like way worse form last year was able to, have a top 5 finish. Has always played extremely well on Poa greens, has always putted extremely well here, has always had really good around the green game here. And, he hasn't had the most unbelievable start to his season. But, we saw a guy that almost won 2 events towards the end of last year, was firmly in the mix at the BMW Championship, similar scoring, played really well at St. Jude. And, I think that he's kind of revitalized his career a little bit. And I would have preferred if, maybe he didn't win in like 2020. Like, I think that's a bit much to ask for him to win this event this late in his career, 3 years apart. But I want like of the guys down the board, like I do think that he has like win equity, and at 66-1, which I got, which like best you get a 60. Like I think that's totally fine. Like I'm fine with it. Like I'm happy with the 66-1 on Scott.
So everything you said, fact. Like he loves this course. He also he has openly said that he doesn't care about a lot of tournaments. Like
Yes.
everybody thought he was going to live because he literally says like, I don't care about this. Like doesn't matter to me. I want to win the big tournaments. And to his credit, he stayed at the tour, and I think he got elected like head of the committee or something today.
Yeah.
So shout out Adam Scott for that. So maybe positive vibes from now. He got elected to that thing. He's going to win. I'd push back on that he was playing better this year than last year. Like he did play in the Middle East last year to start the year and performed pretty well, but I don't think it's a huge deal. And I think, like you said, I was at one point I was thinking like, oh, I'm gonna only bet one of Tone and Xander, and then I'm gonna go down the board and play it that way. I couldn't find anyone. Scott was like one of the few guys where I was like, oh, if I'm gonna do this, like Scott's on the card for sure. So
do you remember his odds last year?
I think I bet him last year. His ball striking coming in was looking like really good. And I was thinking like, this is weird. Why is nobody on him? And he was like 40 to 45 to 1. I think so. You're getting a better price than last year. I think on it, like, I do think that reflects his current form. I think 66 is the reason he's a little worse than last year. A little better field. He's not playing quite as well, but I think it's a fair number. And it's roughly in this like same realm that it was last year in the context of like the field and stuff. So totally possible. And he's the type of guy, like you said, with his baseline here. You want a guy who's at least going to be playing if the rest of your guys like suck and you've got no chance. Adam Scott's gonna he's gonna be on
he'll
the
give me
realm
like half sweat. And like weirdly, like again, this is no, past results have no indication on future results or whatever, but like the winners here have just like come from this range. It doesn't make any sense. Like it shouldn't. Like I don't know why it does. And like, but it has. And like even like with Cam Young, like very much so almost won this event last year, like 300 to 1. I know Colin was probably in the 20s, but it hasn't been an event where like again we're betting guys sub 20, but like it's not like completely unthinkable that
I would say it's definitely statistically like more likely than it was last week when the favorites always win it at WM. And I think it has to do with the fact that like you can just get boned at Riv. Like you hit a stupid shot, you get short-sided.
Where you can hit it wherever you want it.
Yes.
And win, like Scotty did.
Yeah. If Scotty drives it, like, yes, you can hit it pretty crazy at Riv. It's not narrow by any stretch of the imagination, but it is narrow enough that you get in the trees and you're trying to like escape. Like you can get boned.
And the green complexes are a lot harder.
That's where the problem is. Like you get on the wrong side of the green, good. Like you could be screwed. So I think that just like opens the door for the top players, to make one mistake and get screwed versus like you're saying, Scotty just, no matter where he was getting the ball on the green and moving along.
Yeah. And then I bet someone like, this is like not a joke. I will be betting Keegan Bradley every single week. He tees it up and he's over. Like really like I'll be betting him just every single week. Like the only place, like I probably won't bet him at like API, but like, we got a big run of Keegan. I don't know if he's going to play Honda, probably won't, but like we'll bet him at Honda. I already bet him at the Players at 100 to 1. I bet him at the Valspar. He's winning the PGA Championship at Oak Hill. Like I'll give like you like I'll kind of some credit on it, but like
I mean, by some credit, you do have to say I wrote this up in December before you ever spoke about it. But
no. But I thought about it. Like I'll pull up some texts. Like I can't like give you access to my brain, but I thought
that's fair.
One point in my life, Keegan at Oak Hill.
That's fair. I'll give you that. I don't doubt that. I don't think you came up with it because of anything I did. I'm just saying I put it out into the world a little bit, but we can collab it. Like this is. I'm down for Keegan. When like I said, when I was looking down the board, if I was like, okay, if I'm going to bet, Cam Young, and then I'm going to have room for another guy, like my guys were Scott and Keegan, because it just, of these guys in this range, they undoubtedly make the most sense. And I will give a plug. I do have some FOMO, and I'm very surprised I'm saying this, on Ricky Fowler.
Some big dick, Rick.
I have some FOMO on Fowler just because he is hitting the ball really well. He hits it long. And when you look at Neiman last year coming in here, Neiman had not really played well at Riv before. He had like made one cut, maybe two cuts, but he had never.
I think the thing was, I remember it was that he played well, but then had like a really bad Sunday and then finished like 30th, but like was very much so like in the mix the first 3 days.
But the cool, like looking back, I didn't pick him last year, but like looking back at this, in all of his previous starts here, he had done well around the greens. And the Kikuyu grass here, they don't see it on like any other stop on tour. Like we've talked about, just how complex the greens are. Showing an ability to consistently gain around the greens at Riv is something that not a lot of players do. And he had done that. And then he won with the best around the green performance of his career and gained like infinity strokes around the green. So he had that trend of like he can handle around the greens. And then he showed up ball striking it fantastically just from his recent form. Boom, you combine that, Joaquin wins the tournament. I think you see that with Fowler. He's been hitting it well. Obviously, that hole-in-one last week was dope. Shout out Ricky for the hole-in-one. Like, too bad he didn't do it on 16. But I'm just pulling up his around the green at Riv. Like, at Riv, he's gone cut 35, 62, cut 20, 55. So nothing crazy, but like not awfully. Hasn't missed a cut every time. He has gained around the greens every single time. A stroke per round, 0.4 per round, 0.75 per round, 1 per round, 0.6, 0.9. Like if Ricky misses the green a lot this week, he's going to get it up and down a fair amount. He's putted well the last couple of starts. So that's looking better. And he's just hitting the ball really well. He feels a lot to me like Day did to me last week. And I was on Day last week. I'm not on Day this week because he's never putted well here. And his odds are half what they were last week. And now everybody jumps on Day because like he finished 5th last week. I don't think there's any difference of his chances to win this week versus last week. I just think the odds are wrong last week. I think the story is the same on Ricky this week at around 80-1, which was there earlier. I think maybe it's like 65 now. If I was going down the board, I have no problem with Ricky.
So sleeper, like Big Dick Fowler in the mix this week, not on the card, but like a potential clip victory lap.
Oh yeah. Like if he has the lead after the second round, like, or anything like that, I'm posting.
Okay. Okay.
Like
well, I'll get this clip ready to go. But yeah, no, I like Keegan. I like really like how well he putted at Torrey on Poa Greens.
Yeah.
Like strokes gain, you put on the difficult filter on Fantasy National, like strokes gain, difficult courses. Like he just fucks. He drives it really well on difficult courses. Doesn't have to go super low. And he played really well here, like when he was like good, and he's good again. So yeah, exactly. Give me Keegan.
Yeah. One other thing on Keegan: strokes gained cold weather and cloudy. Yeah. When it's cold and cloudy, Keegan plays well almost every time. Yeah. If you turn on the golf and it's cold and cloudy, they then cut to Keegan hitting some unbelievable shot into a firm green to like 6 feet, and you're like, oh, it's Keegan season.
And he was basically the first round leader last week. Like Keegan, first round leader, mortal this week. Like I was in my hotel room pre-gaming and he like was making everything and I leave. He made a couple bogeys, put in the water. I like was just like looking out at the Atlantic Ocean, like just thinking about my life because I spent the money, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, there was no doubt that he was cashing first round leader after the third hole. He almost hit a hole in one hole and it was like he's cashing.
Bad beat, but like we're going right back. Like Keegan, first round leader this week. What are we doing about Wyndham Clark? Because I've bet golf long enough that he's missing the cut this week. Like there are way too many. Like Wyndham Clark is the perfect sleeper. He's the perfect long shot. He's playing well. Fucks here. Good on Poa. Like Windy C. Like I invented him. Like people are DMing me about him. He's missing the cut. Wyndham Clark is missing the cut this week. It's too obvious. It makes too much sense.
So first of all, I hear exactly what you're saying. I couldn't possibly agree more with the general sentiment. It does hurt me to see you turn on literally. No one is more Windy C's guy than you. That is a fact. I'll give you Windy C. Like you invented Windy C. He is your guy. Yeah. You are now bailing on him at his peak moment. Like I agree. I totally see exactly what you're happening, but never before has Windy C made more sense. Usually when you pick him, it is a bad bet because it's not Windy C week. This logically makes sense as Windy C week. So I am not on him. The stats, he was like 14th in the model. Like it makes all the sense in the world. Windy C. He's played great here. The reason he never can compete is because his approach play sucks, but his approach play has been good the last 2 weeks. That's like the game-changing thing that has happened with Windy C.
God, no, first round leader Hunt.
Yeah, he's not winning the tournament. He hasn't come like
he's never been in contention to win anything.
He's like 80 to 1 in the odds. His realistic chance of winning is like 200, 250 to 1. Like that's where Windy C usually falls, and that's the fair number on Windy C. But to play him in other ways, first round leader, and just like if you're finding bets where it's like, is Windy C going to potentially play well this week? Obviously, it makes all the sense in the world. I don't know.
But like
how
he might miss. He just might miss the cut. I'm just letting people know.
He got disqualified last year. I don't know what happened, but like he could also get DQ'd.
At Jenny.
Yeah, he got DQ'd at Jenny. So strokes gained.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, it says on, unless Data Golf line to this. Here's Wyndham Clark. Yes, Wyndham Clark at Jenny. T17, T18, disqualified from the tournament. So strokes gained negative vibes could be a thing here now too, because we don't know what happened to Windy C last year.
Yeah, that happened. It was a thing.
Do we know what? Do we know what
let me
he
pull
did?
Up the article. Well, he shot a 6. He shot a 77, and he shot an incorrect scorecard.
So he was just pissed.
So I think I'm doubling down on that. He's gonna miss the cut this week. So you always have a random long shot on the card. We were all a week early on Kurt K. There was really nothing just from a macro level, like there's no reason that Kurt should play better at Pebble than Torrey. Am I mistaken?
I think I feel like I was wrong because I feel like I brought up Kurt K week at Farmers. So I take full responsibility.
we can all invent people, but you got to be there when you're wrong.
I'll straight up go back and I could say this any week. You go back and read what I wrote, and probably 50% of it was 100% wrong. But that's just how it works. I was wrong on Kurt K. But when I think back about why he was good at Pebble versus Torrey, at Pebble he wasn't having to hit driver too much, and he was just putting it in the fairway, and he was able to hit his irons into the green. I thought at Farmers it was going to be bomb and kind of gouge opportunity for him with the deep rough. That turned out to be wrong. Now, luckily, Max was striping it down the middle every single time, so it was all good. But when he hits in the rough, he's screwed if it's deep rough because he hits in the rough all the time. Riv, the courses that Kurt K has played well at, honestly, I think Pebble was not a course I would normally think he plays well. But when you think about why he might have played well, it's A, the field was bad, and B, he can hit irons off tees in the fairways. Vedanta, Renaissance Club, and Congaree, where he has finished second at all of those tournaments, are all courses with extremely low penalties for wayward driving. Congaree's fairways are massive, the biggest on the tour. Vedanta and Renaissance Club have one of the lowest penalties for the rough. The roughs just isn't a problem at those courses. And they're courses where you can just bomb it and then hit your irons in the green. He played awesome at all of those tournaments. He finished second place in every single one of them. And then the problem with him also is his putting. A lot of weeks, his putting is terrible. But you look at his iron play, when he gains a lot with his irons, which isn't too often, but it is the weeks where he can just hit from anywhere. He also putts well. So there's some correlation where when he's vibing with the irons, he putts better. I don't know if he just feels better putting for birdie than par.
I've been there personally.
Yeah, but those are real things that that's not for every golfer, but the mental side, that is a thing. So I don't know exactly why that's the case. That would just be my guess. I don't think the putting's as big of an issue here. I think if he's vibing with his game, he's going to putt fine. And then just last week at Waste Management, he was second in the field in birdie or better percentage for the week. So he was making a lot of birdies. He probably just got himself into some trouble. I think he finished 26th or he played 23rd. Fine. 23rd. That's now in the mix at Pebble, where he was in the final group and just played awful in the final round and ejected, which isn't something he's done before. I don't see Kurt K as an eject guy. He's just gotten beat in the tournaments that he's been in the mix. He's lost to Rahm, Rory, and Xander. The dude has stepped up and played good against big players. To me, this is where this is a bit of an outlandish take, but I think there's some truth to it. What's the difference between, besides the fact that Cam Young came here and played well last year with a bomb and gouge style of play? Kurt's been as close to winning on the PGA Tour as Cam Young has, and as Tigala. To me, those players are roughly, from a chance of winning on the PGA Tour, kind of the same.
Just from a strokes gained in their perspective.
Yeah, strokes gained, can they win on the PGA Tour? I'll take Kurt at 180 to 1 or 200 to 1 or whatever he is this week versus Teagues at 70, 80 and Cam Young at 35, because I think the realistic chance of any of them winning is pretty low. So give me Kurt K at a number that's basically a throwaway. That's the Kurt K.
So Kurt K, strokes gained, no rough. Kurt K, strokes gained, like runner-up finishes. Like
I was a little.
checked.
I will say I was concerned when I saw Scotty say the rough might be a little worse, because if the rough is worse, then Kurt K week is off. Like we can't. We need we need to be able to bomb down.
Are we worried like maybe like week too early with Honda next week?
I can say very confidently,
Kurt K's not winning Honda.
No, that's not what I was going to say. I can't possibly ever feel a week early on a guy who's 180 to 1.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter. If I think he can win at the course, I'm not saving Kurt K for Honda. I can decide next week at whatever odds he is at Honda if I want to bet Kurt K at Honda. He's 180 to 1, 200 to 1 this week. I see the path. I'm down for Kurt K. If he shoots 80 like he did at Farmers, fine. Like, cool.
All good.
It's not up to Kurt K for me to have a good week. It's up to Xander and Finau to decide if I have a good week. If he can pop and play well, that's gravy, and I see the path. Sign me up for some Kurt K.
Are we in on like a 40 to 1 Kurt K next week at Honda? Like what? Like, are you down to go back? Like, I mean, my Honda card's done personally, but I'm just kind of wondering, like, how bad is the Honda field going to be?
Probably awful. Probably truly. Right? I'm trying to think of like, it'll probably be like worse. It'll be worse than Sony, I would imagine. I think it'll be worse than Sony.
Yeah. It's Honda then Bay Hill.
Right? Yeah, and then it's Honda then Players then Bay Hill. No one is going to play Honda.
You're wrong. You're wrong. The Players is not the week after. It's Honda Bay Hill Player. Honda Bay Hill Valspar Players.
Okay. So they're going to
play Valero Masters. Positive.
Okay. So they're going to play. They're not going to play Honda, and then they're going to play API.
Yeah, they have to.
Not play Valspar. Some guys will play Valspar, maybe, but probably not, because then you said it's Players then match play, so probably nobody plays. Yeah. Like I doubt. Honda, they already don't like Honda because that horse is too hard. So like nobody, they don't want to play API. Like they won't go to Arnold Palmer's course because it's too hard. Now they have to. API is going to be sick. I hope that they trick out because API is usually the hardest tournament of the year. They make the course impossible. Yeah. It is sick. The players hate it. It's awesome to watch because it's impossible. I'm looking forward to API probably the most of this next stretch of designated events. If
any API early leans,
you got to think like Scotty, right? He won last year. Again. He goes back to API. I think he'll be he won't be the favorite in the odds. Rory will probably be the favorite, but I think like percentage-wise, if I was giving you the percentage of most likely person to win, I'd say Scotty. I don't think that's obviously who I'll bet. But just two other long shots. I want to get your take here at the Jenny. Back to the Jenny. Okay. A couple guys I looked at, they're like 150, 200 to 1. I don't know what they're in DraftKings. Like as we've talked about, I don't play a lot of DraftKings, just not my thing.
Yeah, I fucking hate DraftKings.
But I like to think, about draft. Like I think about DraftKings and I read all the stuff about it. I just don't play it. I think it's a bit too much of a lottery. Like if you have the knowledge level to be profitable betting on golf, I don't think it's necessarily the best way to take advantage of that. Now, there's probably arguments for and against it. But I still like to read about it and think like who's going to be highest. Like I'm interested in like what's going on. So in that context, a guy who I know I highly doubt many people will be on, who has been terrible his last couple starts and has burned everyone, but is a good golfer, is Cam Davis. And this is a Cam Davis course where you launch it off the tee, you do some shapes, some shots, you do cool stuff. Like that's when I think Cam Davis, I think about it.
Strokes gained Australia.
Yeah, strokes gained Australia. But he's been awful. And the problem is he putts terribly. So he'll probably 3-putt a lot and that'll ruin it. But I was on him at Rocket when he won, and he was like 125, 150 to 1. He was playing terrible before he won at Rocket Mortgage too, like miscut, like a bunch of like very average finishes. And he's done so bad when he was like 40, 30 to 1 and he did terrible. He has fallen off a cliff in the odds. He was just in like if he was playing normally, he'd be like 60, 70 to 1 if he was playing like how he was a couple weeks ago. Now he's like 150. If somebody wants to bet Cam Davis, at least he's won on the PGA Tour and is a talented player. Like that's cool with me. How do you feel about Cam Davis? Because I know he's burned.
Yeah, I have like I'm just like good. Like I don't play. What are his odds?
Like they're off. He might have been like 180 to 1. Like they're insane odds on Cam Davis. versus like what we thought.
225 to 1.
And we thought he, like, people, myself included, I put him in the top 50 of my world golf ranking thing that I did at the beginning of the year. I had Cam Davis at like 43 or 44 because the dude is good. Like, when he shows up and plays good golf, he's
no, that's crazy.
1.
I mean, he's
That's
like 150 most places, but Caesars just came out with their odds. He's 225 to 1. That's AV. That's plus EV.
Yeah.
That's got to be plus EV.
Especially for a player who has actually won at outlandish odds before. Like, he's shown up on no form and just won the golf tournament. And not like so many of the guys over in this range have no legitimate chance of winning. Cam Davis has no legitimate chance of winning in the, like, realistically, but he has at least done it before and is capable of doing it. And I think, like, when you look at long shots, and I think, like, I feel like I've hit a couple of long shots. I think when it comes to like picking guys down the board, it's an area I honestly feel better picking guys down the board than I do at the top of the board. Like, I just feel like that's what I like to look at. To hit a guy in this range, they have to have like been able to do it or proven that they can do it before. Some Joe Blow.
So Harris English 500 to 1.
Yeah, like
CV.
Sure, like and Kapalua comp. There you go. Like, you can come up with a.
Harris English 500.
If it's a long shot that you can come up with at least a path to winning on the PGA Tour, then sign me up. So Harris English, a guy who doesn't fit this bill, was the other guy I was going to bring up. Your boy, you were just down at Punta Cana, where he lives. Thomas Dietrich is like 200 to 1. This is a Thomas Dietrich golf course.
You know Dietrich, like you. This is like a true like know your guy situation.
I had him as model number 1 at Sanderson. He had the 36-hole lead, which was dope. So I do consider Dietrich one of my guys. He's not winning. 0% chance that Dietrich will win the tournament. But a guy who could maybe be first-round leader or just pop off, finish top 10, something like that.
Leader,
Bomb and gouge and scramble. That's Thomas Deep. That's his game. Like, he hits it really far, and he's got a good short game. That's what he does. He can hit shots. Thomas Peters was second here. Strokes gained Belgium. Like, we like that.
Huge.
And
I'm eyeing down the board. Chad Ramey 1,000 to 1. Like, this guy's won. Like, he's 1,000 to 1. Like 1,000.
Played good at Pebble. Played good at Pebble.
Played well for 1 round at Pebble. That is 10 to win $10,000, right? Like, that has to be plus EV.
Yeah,
like Chad Ramey.
The other in that range that Devo bet was Lee Hodges 850, and I would say Ramey is a better bet than Hodges. Ramey's won on the PGA Tour.
Where the fuck was Lee 850?
I think he like held a gun to somebody and was like, "Give me 850."
There's no way Lee Hodges was 850 to 1, but like that again, that is plus EV. So I have no kind of beef.
And I think too, in a tournament like this, where realistically no one besides the favorites really has a shot, there's not that big of a difference in the grand scheme of things between the guys at like 100 and the guys at like 300, 400, 500. Yeah, what was Nick Taylor last week? Like Infinity? And
he was like 200, 250.
Yeah. So yeah,
you're like Svensson, Ben Taylor, Davis Thompson is 400 to 1.
Yeah, all like at Honda, we'll be betting those guys. All the guys
legitimately like 60.
Yeah. Davis Thompson might be favored at Honda. Who like that is how bad the field is going to be, and that is the skill level that these guys have. Like they're good golfers. It's just they're up against a tough field this week. No, but we just saw it with Nick Taylor. Nick Taylor played on. We didn't even talk about Nick at the beginning. Yeah, he played really impressed. Like, shout out Nick Taylor. He did. And so guys can do it. They can get in the mix, but you got to have, if you really care about the money you're putting on that guy, which you shouldn't if they're 251, you got to also have him like first round leader, top 10, other ways that they can play good if you think they're going to play good, but doesn't result in winning the tournament.
Yeah. I mean, Harry English, like 500 to 1 to stare me in the face. Like,
just for kicks, I want to see how Harry's played.
I think he shot like a 42 on the front.
2014, 10th place. There you go.
It's plus EV.
He's always putted well here, and U.S. Open master at a potential future U.S. Open site and previous U.S. Open site.
Strokes gained U.S. Open. Like it's plus EV. I don't know really what else to say, but let's just hope we can celebrate Big Tone on Sunday night. I'm off Monday. We got President's Day on Monday. I'm going to play golf. I'm hoping that we just get a Tone win, and I would hope that he at least just plays awful if he doesn't win. Like, I don't even want any sort of like gains 8 strokes ball striking. Like, I want a full eject if he doesn't have it.
If I just sat here and gave a powerful defense of Tone's putting, I went out on a limb and defended his putting, and he loses this tournament because he putts like a moron, I'm going to be upset. And I have good vibes with Tony because of our success that we had together at the Cadence Bank Houston Open and the dominating victory that we had. That carries a lot of weight for Tone with me. But a terrible putting week where he ejects from this or loses because of that, we're back to the drawing board.
We're only betting him on small dick bent courses.
Like, we'll hit him again at 3M, back-to-back 3M.
Okay, fine. Like, so I'm fine with that. Like, if Tony putts bad this week, we're only betting him at small dick bent courses.
Yeah, I think this is a make or break week for Tony. I think we can
like when your guy has like a 7-footer for birdie on Friday, and you're like, if he doesn't make this, he's not winning this tournament. This is how I feel about Tony this week.
He has to make all of those. When you say we need this, because that's what Max did. And that's what happens when your guy actually wins the tournament, is that every time you need him to make a putt, he just makes
definitely thought, like, on Saturday, I was definitely Friday, I was like, he had to made like 5 putts, and I said he wouldn't win if he missed them, and he missed them all. But that's okay. That's fine. That's in the past. But actually, Tony.
One thing quickly on Max. That was one guy we didn't talk about in that range. Like, the price is too low, but Max winning in at Riv makes all the sense in the world. We didn't talk about him, and I wanted to shout him out because he is a legitimate contender and our boy, and we didn't even talk about his chances here at Riv. So shout out Max Homa.
Yeah, he could play well. I'll just go out on a limb there. He could play well this week. But Adam, I appreciate you coming on. I hope you have a good time at the Players coming up. Looking forward to some insight with that. I wish you the best of luck with your endeavors into golf content and your website, which is fantastic. Love reading it every week. I will be tailing fully the DP World Tour this week. I didn't the past 2 weeks, but you were on the pod, so full tail on the DP Tour. We've had some success recently. We've had guys in the mix at least, so I appreciate your insight, and I appreciate the listeners who checked out the pod tonight, and we'll be back with a very special Jers Way for the Honda, his event next week. So just all the boys are coming on. So I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And if anybody made it this long into the pod, you have a much better chance of hitting next week. Jers Honda, like I might tail Jers's card entirely at Honda. like I don't really have any strong leans for Honda. I may just tail Jers because I know he's going to have a fire card for his home tournament. He's hitting Honda, so
and he's the best. He's the best golf better in our group chat, and one of the best. Has 2 winners on the season. Most people just have 1. So Jers he's hot right now. I like his current form, so I'm excited for Jers. But we'll see you next week for the Honda. I hope everyone has a wonderful night.
All right, see it.